October 31st, 2009. Halloween night. A quiet apartment in Queens. Someone is pounding on the door, not knocking. Pounding with fists, a voice shouting his name. Schoolcraft, open the door. Inside, a man lies in bed, off-duty, sick, running a fever. He is a New York City police officer. The men hammering on his door are also NYPD. A dozen of them his precinct commander, a deputy chief, and a tactical unit the NYPD sends to corner armed and dangerous men. They have come on one of their own. The man in the bed does not reach for a weapon. He reaches for something far smaller, a tiny digital recorder. He presses one button. Record. He does not know if he will survive that night. He does not know he is about to be locked inside a psychiatric ward as a madman. But he knows what he has been collecting for 17 months. And he knows that whatever they do to him, the machine is listening. Why would the largest police force in America send a tactical team to make one of its own officers vanish? And what is on the tapes he's so desperate to protect that he's recording his own abduction? To understand that night, you must go back to the day an ordinary cop realized the job had become a lie. His name is Adrian Schoolcraft. He is a former Navy corpsman, the son of a cop, a quiet man who joined the New York Police Department for the oldest and simplest reason there is. He believed the job meant protecting people. On the other side stands the giant, the NYPD. 35,000 officers, the largest police force in America, bigger than most of the world's standing armies. And by the late 2000s, inside that machine, something has quietly gone wrong at the root. The mission is no longer catching criminals. The mission is numbers. Schoolcraft is assigned to the 81st Precinct in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, and it does not take him long to learn how the numbers really get made. There is a system the department runs on, where commanders are judged, promoted, or buried in front of their peers based on 2 columns of numbers. Crime has to go down. Arrests and summons have to go up. Miss either one, or a commander gets humiliated, passed over, shipped out. Hit them, and he gets the promotion, the better posting, the career. The whole machine is built to reward one thing above all else: good numbers. And it has stopped asking too hard where the numbers come from. And the men under that pressure have found a brutally simple way to deliver. If you cannot actually drive crime down and arrests by honest policing, you fake both. You manufacture arrests and you hide the crime. 2 lies pointing in opposite directions that together make any precinct look like a miracle of public safety. On roll call, the orders come down plainly. If they're on a corner, make them move. They don't want to move, lock them up. Done deal. Clear the corners. Move people along, and if they do not move, if they do not produce identification fast enough, arrest them. Find a charge after: disorderly conduct, trespassing. Anything that turns a human being standing on a sidewalk into a body in the system, a number in the column that must go up. So in Bed-Stuy, people are getting cuffed for the crime of existing on their own street. A man is arrested feet from his own front door. A woman walks away from an arrest with 2 broken wrists. Her offense being that she stood on her own stoop and could not show ID fast enough. These are not criminals. They are the neighborhood the police are supposed to serve, swept up to feed a statistic. And then Schoolcraft sees the other half of the fraud, and this is the part that turns off his stomach. To make the crime column go down, real crime must disappear. So, it does. A robbery gets quietly written up as lost property. A felony assault becomes a minor complaint, or no complaint at all. Victims who come into the precinct to report that they have been robbed, beaten, in some cases far worse, are talked out of it, sent away, their cases never written down. So the 81st can keep calling itself one of the safest precincts in the city. Sit with what that means. The people failing are not the loud ones on the corner. They are the victims. The woman who was attacked and walked into the precinct for help, only to be talked out of filing a report and sent back into the night, erased from the record so a commander could hit his target. The robbery victim whose case becomes a line about lost property. The crime that, on paper, simply never happened. It is a perfect machine for injustice. On one end, innocent people are arrested to pump up the arrest column. On the other hand, Real victims are turned away to shrink the crime column. Both lies serve the same master, the numbers, and both grind down the exact people the police swore to protect. The department built to keep a neighborhood safe is quietly deleting that neighborhood from its own books. At first, Schoolcraft does what a good cop is supposed to do. He raises concerns. He pushes back quietly. He keeps waiting for this to turn out to be a few bad apples, a couple of supervisors cutting corners. It is not. The orders are not coming from rogue cops in a corner. They are coming down from the top of his own precinct at roll call, out loud in front of everyone, as official policy. The bosses are not hiding it from their own officers. They are commanding it. And the moment he understands that, he understands the trap he is standing in. There is no one he can safely tell. Every channel for reporting corruption inside the NYPD runs straight back up the same chain of command that is giving the orders. Report it to your sergeant, and your sergeant answers the lieutenant who answers the captain, who is the one demanding the numbers. The watchdog and the criminal are the same animals. To blow the whistle through the proper channels is to hand your complaint directly to the people you are complaining about, with your name on it. So Adrian Schoolcraft decides to do the one thing a cop is never ever supposed to do. What does an honest man do when every channel for the truth runs back to the people committing the crime? And what weapon is left when the system itself is the criminal? He decides to record it. It starts small. A cheap digital voice recorder, the kind you could buy at any electronics store, slipped into a pocket and carried into the precinct. No hidden cameras, no spy gear, no plans that belong to a movie. Just one ordinary man, one ordinary machine, and the willingness to press a button and let the truth record itself. Every morning he walks into roll calls with the recorder running. And every morning the commanders stand up and give the illegal orders in their own voices, never imagining that one of the tired cops in the room is capturing every word. They are, without knowing it, building the case against themselves, one shift at a time. Understand what each of those recordings actually is. It is a round in the chamber, the first undeniable, in their own words, proof that the quotas are real, that the orders are real, that the corruption is policy and not rumor. And it is also a loaded gun pointed back at the man carrying it, because if that recorder is ever found, his career is over and his safety is gone. Every single tape makes his case stronger and his position more dangerous at exactly the same time. He does not record it once. He does not record for a week. He does this day after day, walking into the lion's den with the evidence running in his pocket for 17 months. Picture the nerve that takes. Every shift he must act normal, sit through roll call, work on the street, knowing that if a single supervisor gets suspicious, if the device is ever spotted or heard, he is not just fired, he is finished, alone, surrounded by armed men who already bend the rules and who would have every reason to make an example of the cops secretly taping them. He carries that risk into the building again, on purpose, and he never stops. The tapes pile up toward 117 recorded roll calls, hundreds of hours of audio, and the content gets more damning the longer he listens. The order to make the arrest first and invent the charge later. The instruction to write up serious crimes as something smaller or not at all. The command, in the days before Halloween, to sweep up everyone standing on the street. Never mind how young they are. Never mind whether they have done a single thing wrong. The casual recorded confirmation in the boss's own voices that the crime numbers a whole city trusts are being faked from the top down. It is no longer one man's word against the department's. It is the department's own words against itself. If a true story about one ordinary person taking on something enormous is the kind of thing you want more of, this channel exists to dig them up, and the subscribe button is how the next one finds you. Because what Schoolcraft does next is the moment the whole thing turns. After more than a year of this, he holds something almost no whistleblower ever gets. Overwhelming, recorded, undeniable proof. But here is the trap hidden inside his own victory. Proof is worthless unless someone with power acts on it. And the only people in his world with the power to act on evidence of NYPD corruption are the NYPD itself, the same institution he has spent 17 months secretly recording. So, he makes a fateful decision. He will take it up the chain, to the one unit whose entire job is to audit the department's own crime numbers and root out exactly this kind of fraud. He will hand over the most powerful police force in America with proof of its own corruption and trust it to do the right thing. But what happens when you hand out the watchdog evidence that the watchdog itself is the criminal? And what does the system do to a man holding the proof that could bring it down? October 2009. Schoolcraft brings everything forward. He takes his recordings and his documentation to the NYPD's own investigators, to the unit responsible for the integrity of crime statistics, and to civil rights lawyers on the outside. He has done it the right way, the honest way, the way the system tells you to do it. He believes the evidence is so overwhelming that it will force a reckoning. The orders are on tape. The fraud is undeniable. How could it not? And then the machine turns, and it does not turn on the corruption. It turns on him. The retaliation comes fast, and it escalates with a logic of its own. His fellow officers grow cold, then hostile. The friendly faces turn into watchful ones. Suddenly there is a paper trail where there never was before. Complaints about his performance, an unusually harsh evaluation that questions whether he is even fit to wear the badge, official documents designed to recast the man with the cleanest conscience in the building as the unstable one, the troublemaker, the problem. Notice the shape of what they are building. They are not accusing him of lying about the quotas, because they cannot. The tapes are real, and they know it. Instead, they are quietly constructing a story about him, that he is difficult, that is not right, that his judgment cannot be trusted. Every harsh note in his file is a brick in a wall that will let them say, later, that nothing this man claims should be believed. He is pulled off the street and parked at a desk, the cop who exposed the watchers now sitting squarely under watch. This is the reversal the whole story has been screwing toward. Handing over the evidence did not free him. It marked him. To the institution, he is no longer a complication to be managed. He is a threat to be neutralized, and the people he reported now know exactly who he is, exactly what he has, and exactly where he lives. 3 weeks. That is how long it takes. Exactly 3 weeks after Adrian Schoolcraft reports his commanders to the unit that is supposed to police the NYPD's own numbers, the calendar turns to October 31st. Halloween. He leaves work early that afternoon, genuinely sick, feverish, and goes home to his apartment in Queens to lie down and sleep. That evening, there was a pounding on his door. And now you know who is standing on the other side of it. So, how does it end when the people sworn to protect you are the same people sent to make you disappear? And how does an off-duty cop fight back when his own department comes through his door? This is the night the giant overreaches, and it is the night it makes the one mistake that undoes it. Look at who has come for a sick patrolman lying in his own bed. Not 1 or 2 officers, a dozen. His precinct commander, the deputy chief, an emergency services tactical unit, and, by Schoolcraft's account, a top aide to the police commissioner of New York City himself. A detail that tells you how high up the chain the order to deal with this man traveled. All of this for one off-duty cop who has broken no law, committed no crime, and is guilty of nothing but telling the truth and keeping the tapes. Inside, Schoolcraft does the only thing he can do. He turns on not 1 recorder, but 2. They get the landlord's key and they come through the door. And here is the thing that makes the whole scene so damning. He does not rage. He does not threaten. He is calm. He tells them plainly that he has done nothing wrong and that he would like to lie in his own bed in his own home. I haven't done anything wrong. I just want to lie down in my own bed. When paramedics check him and flag that his blood pressure is high, he even agrees at first to go to a hospital. Then he senses what this really is, and he refuses to leave. That refusal is when the mask slips. The deputy chief's patience snaps. The choice he gives Schoolcraft is the choice of a man who has run out of legal options. You're coming with us, or I'm taking you out of here as an emotionally disturbed person. Come quietly, or be declared an emotionally disturbed person, an EDP, and be dragged out in handcuffs as a mental case. Think about how clean that plan is. You cannot arrest a man for telling the truth, but you can call him crazy, and a crazy man's tapes are the ravings of a lunatic. A crazy man can be locked away, discredited, erased, and no one will ever believe a word he recorded. And then, in chaos, comes the mistake. During the struggle, one of Schoolcraft's 2 recorders is discovered on his body and confiscated. The officers now believe the danger is gone. They have a recorder. They have the cop. They have him cornered. So, the deputy chief, certain he is no longer being recorded, says the quiet part out loud. He gives the order to take Schoolcraft away, and he makes it personal, on tape, that he simply cannot stand the man. "I don't like this guy. Get him out of here." But the recorder they seized was switched off, and on a shelf in that same apartment, a second machine is still rolling, still listening, capturing every word of it. The act meant to bury Adrian Schoolcraft is being recorded on the very weapon they failed to find. Then it gets physical. They push him down onto his own bed. They wrench his arms behind him and snap the handcuffs on. A healthy off-duty officer who has committed no crime, restrained in his own bedroom by the men he works for. They push him down. They handcuffed him. They drag him out of his own home in front of his neighbors, load him into a vehicle, drive him across the city to a far-off hospital psychiatric ward, and lock him inside. He is held there for 6 days. To justify it, an officer feeds the hospital a story that Schoolcraft had barricaded himself in his apartment. A dangerous man in crisis. And here, the truth quietly refuses to cooperate, because the hospital's own staff, examining him, write down what they actually see. A man who is calm, rational, showing no signs of any psychiatric emergency at all. The paperwork meant to prove he is crazy instead proves he never was. They believe they have won. They have made him vanish. They have branded him insane, discredited his evidence, neutralized the threat, and closed the case. They missed the second recorder. When Adrian Schoolcraft finally walks out of that ward, he is not finished. He is holding everything. 17 months of their own orders, in their own voices, and now, on top of it, the recording of them coming to his home to erase him. How does a man fire a weapon like that? And how does the largest police force in America survive when the cop they buried walks out holding the bomb? He fires it. He takes the tapes to a newspaper, and a reporter spends months going through them, verifying voice after voice, order after order, until there is no denying what they contain. Then the story, the NYPD tapes, detonates. The commander's own voices played for the public, the orders to clear the corners and invent the charges, the instructions to bury real crimes, the proof in unmistakable audio of a department quietly cooking the books in one of the biggest cities on earth. It is one thing to claim the police are faking the numbers. It is another to hit play and let the bosses say it themselves. The man they tried to silence in a psychiatric ward becomes the loudest whistle the NYPD has ever heard. The story does not fade in a day. It spreads, city to city, headline to headline, until the whole country is listening to the tapes that were supposed to die in an asylum. Now, the giant is forced to do the one thing it spent 2 years trying to avoid. It has to respond. Under the glare of national attention, the commissioner orders an internal investigation into the 81st precinct. And this is where the weapon truly lands, because the department's own secret report, written by its own people, later confirms in writing exactly what Schoolcraft recorded. A deliberate effort to manipulate crime statistics and underreport crime in the precinct. The institution is convicted by its own internal words. He was right. They knew he was right, and they buried both the report and the man rather than admit it. Then comes the systemic reckoning, the part that reaches far beyond one precinct. When the city's stop and frisk practices go on trial in a landmark federal case, Schoolcraft's recordings become evidence in a courtroom. A federal judge points to those tapes as some of the clearest proof yet that officers were being pushed from above to stop, frisk, and arrest people by the numbers rather than by the law, trampling the constitutional rights of hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers, the overwhelming majority of them Black and Latino. The quotas Schoolcraft caught on a cheap recorder in one Brooklyn precinct turned out to be a window into how an entire city was being policed. The court rules the practice unconstitutional, and in the wave that follows, the NYPD is placed under a federal monitor and given an independent inspector general, outside eyes with the power to look inside the department whenever they choose, the kind of oversight the most powerful police force in the country had spent its entire existence refusing to accept. The institution that had never answered anyone now has someone watching the watchers, and it never would have happened without one man's tapes. So, answer the title plainly. One patrol cop with a hidden recorder he bought at a store forced the largest police force in America to admit it was faking crime numbers and to submit for the first time to outside control. The sling brought down the giant, but this channel does not let you leave on a clean win, because the cost was real and it was his. It cost Adrian Schoolcraft his career and years of his life. He spent those years branded, fighting in court to clear his name, to prove that the calm, rational man the hospital itself had described was never the dangerous lunatic the department tried to invent. He never walked a beat again. The job he had joined to do good in, the only job he had ever wanted, was gone for good. After a long legal battle, he reached a settlement with the city and the hospital, and then he quietly left the force and moved far from New York, away from the streets and the precinct and the men who had come through his door. Think about the arithmetic of that. He was completely right. The tape proved it. The department's own report proved it. A federal court used his evidence to change policing for an entire city, and his reward was to lose the career he was trying to protect himself. The man who proved the NYPD was lying did not get to go back to being a cop. He only got to be right. And here is the reframe that recolors everything you just watched. He was not even the only one. In another borough, in another precinct, a different officer was quietly recording the exact same rot, the same roll call quotas, the same pressure to arrest the innocent and bury the real victims. Two men separated across the city, capturing the same disease on tape without knowing about each other. That is the part that should keep you up at night. This was never one broken precinct or one cruel commander. It was systemic, entrenched, and humming along in the dark across the whole department, accepted as simply how the job was done. And without one man's refusal to look away and one small recorder they never found, it would still be buried today, and the city would still believe the numbers. So, remember the real chill underneath all of it. The crime numbers of a great city, the figures that told millions of people whether their streets were safe, were a lie. And it took an honest cop being dragged from his own bed and thrown into a psychiatric ward to prove it. The night they came to erase him was the night they confessed. The giant never saw the sling. It only felt the stone. And somewhere out there right now is another tape. Another ordinary person who pressed record on something they were never supposed to see, and a buried truth still waiting to detonate. If this story keeps you watching, there's another one that will do the same. A 19-year-old college dropout decided that Google, Yahoo, and the entire advertising machinery of the internet were not too big to be turned into weapons, so he hid ransomware behind fake adult banners, locked millions of computers across the world for ransom, and crippled the ad networks themselves when they tried to stop him. That video is on screen now.